Today I'm bringing you a quick review of a phone. It's this one, the recently released Motorola Edge 70. In my opinion, this phone occupies a unique niche in the market. It's a thin and light phone, and its value for money is also good. Although its initial launch price was relatively high, right now, with stacked discounts, you can probably get the 12GB plus 256GB version for a very good price. From my perspective, it's one of the few phones recently that really caught my eye. Because it's different from the Android phones recently released on the market, it's not one of those Android iPhones. It's what I would call a very pure-blooded Android phone. You know what I mean? When you light up the screen, you can see it. In terms of proportions, it's very slender and squarish. It doesn't have those large rounded corners. It looks very Android-like with a very classic feel, and its design is also excellent. Besides looking sleek, its contrasting color design is also quite bold and has a very Google feel to it. The one I have here is the green version. It uses some orange accent colors for contrast. This color blocking looks fantastic, and paired with its very native-like system, when you open it, isn't that just the perfect vibe? For this phone, just based on its specs, I think it's a good value. Add to that its impressive texture and its excellent thinness in this market, it makes me feel it's very suitable for a certain type of user, which we'll talk about later. First, let's talk about what I think is its excellent market niche. It's a phone that's very rare in the current market, an ultra-thin and light phone. To be honest, there are only about 3 such ultra-thin phones on the market right now. One is this, the Motorola Edge 70. Its thickness is 5.99 millimeters. Right here, the thickness is 5.99 millimeters. One is the iPhone Air. The iPhone Air's thickness is 5.64 millimeters, and there's Samsung's Edge. The Samsung Edge is 5.8 millimeters. They all belong to the category of very thin and light phones. I can tell you frankly, holding its 5.99 millimeter body feels very similar to when you first hold an iPhone. They both feel very slender, thin, light, and almost unbelievably so in your hand. Actually, for Moto, it has the DNA for making ultra-thin phones. That's what we used to call the Moto Razr series. The earliest was the V3, then later the XT910, and even later the Moto Z. So for Moto to release such an ultra-thin device isn't a whim or them just following a trend. It's actually part of Moto's heritage. But if these two phones, I mean the other two ultra-thin phones, are very expensive, like the iPhone Air is very expensive, and Samsung's Edge, even with recent price drops, is still quite costly. But this phone, with its affordable entry price, has greatly lowered the barrier to entry for ultra-thin phones. And in making it thinner, they didn't really cut too many corners. What's a bit regrettable is that it uses a mid-range processor, the 4th gen Snapdragon 7. This processor isn't actually bad. It's definitely not bad. Its benchmark score is about 1.4 million. I ran the test here too. It doesn't use the latest flagship processor, but considering its price point, it's perfectly understandable that it doesn't have a flagship processor. You should just see it as a mid-range phone that happens to have the advantage of being ultra-thin. That's the way to understand it. Here's a counterintuitive point. Ultra-thin phones actually really need flagship processors because flagship processors usually have better power efficiency under low power conditions, and since these phones have smaller batteries, when running daily apps they can offer lower power consumption. This Motorola Edge 70, its battery is actually done quite well. See, its thickness is not much different from Samsung's or Apple's, but it uses a 4800 mAh battery compared to the S25 Edge's 3900 mAh and the 17 Air's low 3000s. What it has achieved is quite impressive, okay? Also, Lenovo, or Moto as I said, has the tradition of making ultra-thin phones. If you look at the spec sheet carefully, you'll find that the Lenovo Motorola Edge 70, while maintaining an extremely thin profile, has packed in a lot of things. For example, IP68-69 dust and water resistance certification is a nice bonus, but at this thickness and this price point, it includes 68-watt wired charging and 18-watt wireless charging, symmetrical dual stereo speakers with Dolby certification, and a dual SIM card slot. So its price is low, its value is good, and on top of that, it offers an ultra-thin exterior, giving users who want an ultra-thin phone a new option and one with a very low decision cost. I think that's excellent. And compared to the very expensive iPhone Air, its basic features and experience are also good, better than that Air. First is what I just mentioned, the card slot, right? Besides the card slot, dual speakers. The speaker performance on the iPhone Air is simply a disaster. Not only does this have dual speakers, but it also has 3 cameras, 3 50-megapixel cameras. At this price point, you could say the materials it offers are extremely generous, and the phone's texture is very good. Things like the brushed aluminum frame and the material of the back cover, the color, the design, all feel like, even if it weren't an ultra-thin phone, it would still dominate its price range. And on top of that, it is an ultra-thin phone. So I think this phone is really excellent and very interesting. But next, I'm going to talk about a few points you need to pay attention to if you're considering buying this phone. First, you can't be a very heavy user. If you love playing mobile games and such, its battery definitely won't hold up, and its SoC is also not powerful enough, so your experience will be very very uncomfortable. Another point is its system. Because its system is very close to native Android, this really depends on the person. The next point I'm going to make is subjective. It could be a pro or a con. For example, I really like this native-like system because it's clean, has no ads, and no messy push notifications. As you can see, I've had this phone for 2 days and there are hardly any push notifications. Normally, with so many apps installed, they would have started sending you notifications. The downside is also here. According to feedback from other users, Moto's system has some issues with its push notification system. So that's it for this phone, just a simple sharing. I'm sharing this phone because I think it's a phone with a good design, okay specs, and an amazing price, especially with reasonable discounts. You could say it's the only ticket on the market if you want a low barrier entry to try out this kind of ultra-thin phone. Especially, and I'll say it again, in the future, these ultra-thin phones, like the iPhone Air and the S25 Edge, they sell very poorly. The S25 Edge has probably already been discontinued, so in the future, the market for ultra-thin phones might not be big. It's basically just Moto that's still making them. I think this phone is really great to use. And that's it for this video, a simple sharing of the Motorola Edge 70. I think it's a very interesting, good phone, an ultra-thin phone that's worth buying. It's the most interesting phone I've found recently. I hope this content is helpful for you in choosing this phone. We'll see you next time.